If you're anything like me, then you know what it feels like to struggle with the idea of being behind in life. When I consider my life in contrast with the standard ideals for success and compare myself to my peers, feeling behind is understandable. But why do we feel the need to compare ourselves to others? What am I behind? Teddy Roosevelt is famously quoted as saying, "Comparison is the thief of joy." If my math checks out, Roosevelt died a few years before the internet was invented. If you'd rather not take his advice, by all means. But I took a page from Teddy's book, escaping west to the mountains to do things a little different, stop comparing myself, and try to start overcoming the feeling of being behind.
Part of doing seasonal work or working any type of job that doesn't fit in with the traditional definition of success means that at some point you're probably going to have to deal with questions from people who either don't understand why you would do something like this or don't even know what it is to begin with. You might have to answer questions like, what's next? Or when are you going to get a real job? Okay, but what do you really want to do with your life? What the hell is a dude ranch? Maybe this is the type of job that you do want to try to make a career out of. Specifically, the people that I work with at dude ranches, there are plenty of people that want to try to make a career out of ranching because they love horses and they love being in this atmosphere. But maybe this is the type of job that you just want to do for the experience and the adventure. That's why I got into it. I didn't know shit about horses and I still don't 6 years later. The experience and the adventure, in my opinion, are well worth the price of admission. What better way to figure out what you want to do with your life or find out what your passions are than working in a beautiful place where you aren't committed to them for more than a few months at a time. I didn't have the outlook that this was something that I wanted to do for the long term when I took my first seasonal job 6 years ago. After spending my 20s really doing nothing with my life other than drinking, playing golf, and that was pretty much it. I got my second DUI at 30 years old and decided that something had to change. So I quit drinking alcohol. Yes, I was drinking a beer in my last video. Wasn't completely sober, so I stopped drinking for about 5 years. And I just realized that it looks like this Ocotillo is growing out of my head. Whatever, we're gonna keep moving. I wasn't completely sober. I still had a couple drinks on Thanksgiving and Christmas during those years when I was with family. That gave me the confidence to know, or at least the confidence to think that I could reintroduce alcohol into my lifestyle with some balance. Something that's been an issue for me ever since that point where I decided that I was going to quit drinking and I was going to change my life. I've had a bit of a obsessive personality. To quote my sister, a conversation that I was having with her, she said that I had a bit of an all or nothing personality. And she was right. At the time, I thought that that was a positive thing, and at times in my life it has served me well. But that doesn't mean that every aspect of life you need to completely obsess over. So I quit drinking, I started eating healthier, I started going to the gym and exercising, and really got interested in that world. I lost a bunch of weight and started sort of moving in this new direction. I was working at a school back home in Ohio, and with the upcoming summer looming, I decided that I wanted to find something to do with my time. I ended up finding a job at a dude ranch in Wyoming. Shout out Cross Sabres, I'll be back there this summer for my 6th season. and I fell in love with the mountains and with a different way of life. I went back home to Ohio after that summer and had some newfound confidence that I hadn't really ever had before, and decided to go back to school, and I was going to finally finish my degree, and decided that with the changes that I had made, that health and wellness was something that I was interested in. So started taking classes, and fast forward a couple years, I finished my degree, ended up working at a ski resort in Utah, bounced back and forth between Wyoming and Ohio, and then after the summer of, I think, 2019, when I got my degree, I decided I was going to go back home to Ohio and try to set some roots down there and start a career in health and fitness. A few months later, I ended up deciding that that path wasn't for me. Now, I did have an assist from COVID, but you could probably still argue that I didn't really give it a full chance. And that might be true, but when everything shut down, I had to make a decision, and I ended up having the opportunity to go back out to Wyoming again and sort of escape into the mountains, amidst the backdrop of a global pandemic, and figure out what I wanted to do. And that was the first time since making that initial decision to stop drinking and make big changes in my life. That was the first time that I had found myself not really knowing what the next steps were. Up until that point, I had kind of always had a plan. I didn't necessarily know exactly where I was going to go, but I knew what I wanted to do. I picked up a real camera for the first time that summer and really started to fall in love with creating. So going back to the questions that I mentioned earlier, what do you really want to do with your life? That one's the most important one for me. And I think that it ties into the ideas of success. I think people ask this question wanting you to answer it in a way that satisfies their capability to understand the idea of what success means for them. And most people just default to the traditional definition of success of job title and salary. We want most things in life to be black and white. It makes it easier for us to understand. But I think that success is one of those things, like most things worth caring about, that doesn't really fit into any black and white description. It lives in that gray area. So most people view things through this black and white lens, and it's difficult for them to understand why anybody wouldn't want to go down the path that led to success for them, climbing the corporate ladder, buying a house, building a family. Now, there's nothing wrong with those things, but when you choose to live life in a different way, it challenges the status quo and it makes people uncomfortable because it shows them that there may have been something different. You don't have to work a job that makes you miserable. We've been conditioned to believe that that's what we're supposed to do, I think. But you also don't have to do something that you love. You don't have to love your job. I'm not passionate about cooking. I don't continue to do this because I love cooking and I want to be in a kitchen for the rest of my life. But that's what I love about seasonal work. It provides me the opportunity, and has been providing me the opportunity for the last 6 years, to work on what I wanted to work on personally. I've been able to work full time, travel, see the country, go back to school and finish a degree. Whether I am happy about making that decision or not is a whole nother story. And so now I've fallen in love with this creative aspect of my personality, and taking photos and videos and trying to figure out if that's just going to be a hobby or if it's going to be something more. And working a seasonal job and traveling between Wyoming and Arizona has provided me with an amazing opportunity to be able to do those things. When you're working these cookie cutter jobs that everybody works, and you're living in a big city and living the corporate lifestyle, all you're really focused on is your specific job and climbing the ladder, and maybe you go home and play with your kids or whatever. But if you don't have those responsibilities and you're interested and you're not satisfied with what society has told you makes someone successful, then I think doing something like this makes a lot of sense. The most important thing that I've discovered about myself over the last 5 or 6 years is that I start to feel very unhappy if I don't have something that I'm working towards. If you read a lot of self-development like I do, then you know that one of the common themes is to fall in love with the process. And I kind of found this out about myself by accident. And after I read the book Mindset by Carol Dweck a couple years ago, which is one of the books that has most changed my life, and absolutely recommend it. She mentions something in that book that becoming is better than being. And it helps to shift the focus from, if you have a goal, that goal isn't an end point. You shouldn't look at your goals as endpoints. You should look at them just as a guide. One of the other big takeaways for me surrounding this idea of becoming is better than being is that you shouldn't delay happiness. And what I was doing when I was chasing that dream, if that's what you want to call it, of finally getting my bachelor's degree, was that I was telling myself that I was finally going to be happy with my life once I got that degree. And that just wasn't the case. So there's nothing wrong with chasing your dreams, and I think that you should for the most part, but you also shouldn't delay happiness. I could do a whole nother video about happiness. I've read like 3 books over the last couple years, just solely focused around happiness and what makes us unhappy and things like that.
Hey, I'm cutting in here because this video is already longer than I ever thought it would be. I wanted to mention a few things before I just abruptly ended the video. I have about 10 to 15 more minutes of talking head stuff where I hiked out to another spot later in the same day that I shot all the stuff that you already saw in this video. And as I try to make a video that has some sort of message or narrative or whatever, and I film all this stuff, it can be hard to limit what you put in the video. You want to get everything out, but I think reminding myself that I am going to continue to do this and I am going to keep putting out videos. I don't have to rush to put every little piece of knowledge that I think I can put into a certain topic, or get as in-depth as I absolutely need to get on certain things. There will be more time in the future to explore more ideas and make more videos. But I wanted to end real quick and mention a few things about the video. I didn't mean to gloss over anything as far as the drinking and the alcohol aspect of my life. I was really lucky. I was able to sort of just quit on my own. I didn't seek any help or treatment or anything like that, which actually, funny story now that I'm thinking about it. I found out like years later that one of my college roommates actually asked another one of my college roommates if the reason that I went out to Wyoming originally was because I was like in rehab or treatment or something like that. But no, I wasn't. I was just working at a dude rich. But I don't feel that I'm qualified to give anybody any sort of recommendation or advice. I mean, maybe something that I say could help you, but I'm certainly not an expert in addiction or alcoholism or anything like that. I just have dealt with what I've dealt with and been able to move forward. I just wanted to end with one idea or mantra. Amor fati can mean different things to different people, but translated it means a love of fate. For me, I kind of take it at the face value that Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, which was his journal. Things don't happen to you, they happen for you. Don't just accept that fact, but love it and then make something of it. Another way to look at happiness, or unhappiness for that matter, and this might be oversimplified, but if unhappiness is wishing that things were different, then all we really need for happiness is acceptance of the way things are. All right, that's it for this video. I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, love you.